everyone, welcome back. My name is Sophie Berger and welcome back to another episode of Food for Thought. Today we are covering how to stop aging, how to read research papers, and what light pollution is and why we should worry about it. Okay, so as always, I'm gonna just grab my laptop and let's just jump right into it. The first, I guess it's an article that I'm gonna talk about is the one about aging. And it's called "This Scientist Believes Aging is Optional." And basically what it covers is it talks about how David Sinclair, who is a leading scientist in the field of aging, and also Howard professor, and he was on the Times list of 100 most influential people, how he actually believes that aging is not really a natural part of life, but more similar to a disease that kind of needs to be cured. And he also thinks that we could actually easily double our life expectancy as a global population. So David Sinclair says that what causes aging is actually a malfunction in the sirtuins protein. Now, I'm no biologist, so bear with my pronunciation here. And basically what happens is that in order to slow down or possibly even reverse the aging process, you should put your body through kind of positive stressors, as that kind of promotes the NAD levels, which then promotes more sirtuin protein activity in your body. So that's a whole bunch of science for you, matching with my sweater as well. But basically, what are these positive stressors that David Sinclair talks about here? Essentially, it's things like exercise, cold temperatures, and he also mentions low calorie intake, and that all of these things, all of these activities or ways of life would cause your body to go through positive stressors that would then increase that level of sirtuin in your body and would therefore help the aging process take slower or even reverse the whole process. So when I read this, I was thinking about, or one of the first things that actually came to mind is, okay, so it talks about exercise, cold temperature, and also calorie reduction, and especially that last point of calorie reduction made me think about, okay, well, what is the health trade-off that actually comes into play here? And what are the actual negative effects? And what's the weight of the positive effects of these ways of life compared with the negative effects of these ways of life? And then also, one of the big questions that I think we can also start a discussion on is, why do we actually want to reverse the process of aging? Why is it that us as kind of a species, as a global population, we're so obsessed with wanting to slow it down? I mean, obviously it's nice to increase our life expectancy, but again, what is the trade-off there? And also, do we want to reverse or even stop the process due to kind of social pressures, because aging, being old, has a negative image in a lot of cultures? Or is it because we just don't want to have to deal with the actual health issues that come along with aging? I'm not quite sure, so let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we move on to the next piece of content, as always, all the links to everything I talk about today is going to be down in the description below in case you guys want to go and check it out for yourselves, which I actually highly encourage you to do. And next up is I guess it's also an article from the Science magazine titled "How to Seriously Read a Scientific Paper." And I found this article, or just piece of content, to be very interesting, because essentially what it does is it's kind of like an interview structure almost, where you have a question and then you have a response of multiple students actually answering that question from their point of view and sharing their strategies. So especially for this one, I would highly encourage all of you guys to go and check it out for yourselves, because there's a ton of replies from a ton of different people, and I'm sure there's something there that can help you out as well if you're a student, if you're reading scientific papers. I wasn't actually planning on wearing this necessarily for this video, but it's been a really good fit so far. Anyways, I kind of tried to summarize this whole piece a little bit. And one of the questions that they asked is how to approach papers. How do you approach papers? And kind of what was a common theme amongst all the responses from the different people that I found is to start with the abstract and then to skim the introduction and the conclusion, and also take a glance at the figures, since that all that information is going to give you a good overview. I have something in my eye. There we go. Since all of that information is going to give you a good overview of kind of the main topics, the main concerns of the paper, and then if you're interested, you can go and read the full piece. Another question that they asked is what do you do if there's non-understandable jargon? How do you kind of work around that? And there's kind of two main things that came up here in the responses, and one of them was that you should ask yourself the question, do you actually need to understand this jargon, this very specific phrasing or word, in order to understand the big picture of the paper? If the answer to that is yes, then go ahead and look it up immediately. Don't read the entire thing and then look up everything that you don't understand, because then there's no point in reading it since you didn't actually understand what you just read. And if the answer is no to that first question, you don't actually have to understand that piece of jargon to understand the main concept of the paper, then just don't even worry about it. Then another kind of question that they posed was, how do you deal with feeling overwhelmed when having to read scientific papers? And I had that feeling myself, because actually in the past summer I worked as an undergraduate researcher at my university at UBC, conducting interviews as well, and also doing literature reviews and surveys. So I did actually have to read quite a few papers, and basically the main advice that these students gave is, if you're overwhelmed, you should read the papers over multiple days, take breaks in between, and also you should see it as an opportunity to learn and not as a problem that you don't understand. So rather than sitting there and being like, I have no idea what this paper is about, what am I even doing with my life, just take a break, take a pause, and see it as an opportunity to actually learn what that paper is about by reading the paper, and therefore being able to understand a whole new concept that you weren't familiar with up until then. Okay, now to the final piece of content, which is actually another article, and it's from The Guardian, and you guys might have seen this one already. I saw it on Reddit as well, but it's called "Treat Artificial Light Like Other Forms of Pollution, Say Scientists." Once again, science. Damn, this is just wow. Okay, anyways, so what this article is about is, well, it's basically in the title. It's how the artificial light that we as humans produce through our cities, for example, actually impacts nature and leaves lasting destruction, and that the impact of that light has actually reached a point of systemic destruction in nature and in ecosystems. And basically, what it said is that the illumination of the planet is growing at 2% per year, and that because of that huge and vast increase in illumination levels of artificial light, hormone levels, breeding cycles, and activity patterns of predators are actually being affected across multiple different species, and this includes species that are day or night active. And also that the article actually gives quite a few examples of kind of systems that have changed due to this artificial light. For example, that there's reduced pollination by insects, and also that trees are starting to bud earlier in spring, and there's even some really kind of devastating issues like seabirds flying into lighthouses and sea turtles mistakenly wandering inland to bright hotels in search of the dawn sun, so that there's actual, like, these species, they actually believe that this light is the natural light, and that kind of messes up their whole cycles and their whole way of being, way of existing essentially, and therefore has devastating ecological effects. However, the article also mentions that the outcomes weren't just purely negative, but that certain species in certain locations actually benefited from the artificial light during the night. For example, some plants started to grow faster, and some certain types of bats actually did really well. But overall, it's just a way more negative effect on the world, on the ecosystem as a whole. And when I read this, especially with all the discussions currently in just more general news outlets about climate change, my immediate thought was to what extent is artificial light actually contributing to climate change? Because in a lot of these media sources, we always hear about CO2 emissions and other forms of emissions and electricity use and all of that that's causing climate change. But to what extent is it actually that artificial light is causing climate change, since it has such a devastating impact on the kind of ways of life of species that then start to function differently on plants, and how does that then affect climate change? And also another kind of thought that I had is that I wish this article would have actually touched on is, okay, well, I now know the issue, but what can I do about it? What can we as individuals essentially do in order to help combat this issue? And let me know down below what your thoughts are, how you think that you can help reduce this issue of artificial light. And I guess the first thing that just comes to mind is literally turning off the light when you don't need it, which is a classic as well. But yeah, I couldn't really think of anything else that we as just individuals could do in our everyday lives. So that's actually it. Those are the 3 pieces of content for today. As I said previously, all the links are in the description down below. Let me know if you guys checked it out, which one you really enjoyed reading, if you learned anything new, and share this video with anyone that might be interested in any of the topics that I covered today. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like down below. Comment below as well, as I already said, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already, because I'd love to see you here again. And take care, and I'll see you soon.